Ready? Wow. Okay, this thing moves for a boat. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Tales from the Junkyard, and today we're doing an update video. So we're gonna go head over to my dad's place and do an update on the ignition system that we did. I don't know if you guys remember, a couple videos back we did an ignition upgrade with the progression ignition system, that Distributor. That was pretty cool, the Bluetooth wireless thing. And we're gonna do like a long-term deal. He's had it for about a month or so, and we're gonna find out how he likes it. So we're gonna head over right now and we're gonna catch up with him. All right, see you guys over there. All right, guys, and we are back at my dad's garage today. And as you can see, the big green monster behind me, the Satellite's back. And we're gonna do today, like I said earlier, an update on the ignition system. That's how it's running. He's been driving this for a month now. He's gonna be telling us what he thinks of it, how it's working for him, how what he thinks of the product, usability, all that good stuff. So essentially, this is just a review of the product that we put in here last time. So this is, I guess, ignition upgrade part 2, if you will. And we're gonna just talk about what he sees, what we've been able to tune, what we've been able to do with it, as well as maybe some things that we wish it could do, maybe improvements down the line. You never know. So but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that today, and this will be the video. All right, guys, before we get started on the review, the full review on this thing, I wanted to go over a few things. So we installed that new distributor that's back there. Look at this badass beast here real quick, right? At the man of the hour, my dad, of course. Say hi.
How you doing?
Yeah. So we're gonna talk to him about driving this thing. But anyway, so let's get back to it real quick here. So whenever you upgrade something, and I'm sure all of you guys already know this, but when you upgrade one thing, it's always good to upgrade the next thing. It all works in conjunction with each other, right? So when you put a different camshaft, you got to make sure that the lifters work with that camshaft, and that the heads are going to use that camshaft, and that the intake system is going to take advantage of that. And if you got a fuel injection system, that it's programmed to take advantage of all those mods. So everything feeds into everything else, right? And that includes the ignition system, not just on how it operates, but let's bring it over here on how it works with spark plugs. The thing about these spark plugs here is that, believe it or not, they have something called heat ranges. And I'll explain that in a second. Now, let me show you something that happens to a lot of muscle car and hot rod guys right here. This is a fouled plug. Now, why did this happen? Well, it's running a little rich, as you can see. It's not burning up the mixture as well as it should, right? Well, why? Well, you'll notice a slight, if I can get this into focus, you'll notice a slight difference. So you see the electrode there, right? You see how it's kind of inside the little bore section here, the porcelain area? Well, that's because this is a colder plug than this thing. You see how this porcelain sticks out way out like this? That means it's further into the combustion chamber, making it a hotter plug. Now, these are champion spark plugs. So the way you can tell is by the number here. Let me show you if I can find it there. Yeah, champion, there it is. So this is a 14. The higher the number goes on these, the hotter it is. This, for example, is a 9. So this is a colder plug. Now, Anthony, why are there different freaking plugs? Why make different solid plugs? Well, let's say, for example, you live out in the desert and it's hot pretty much 90% of the time. Well, you might want to run a colder plug because your engine's going to be hot most of the time. And so if you're running a hotter situation, everything's pretty much in the warmth all the time, you're going to need something that's a little cooler running, because otherwise you might overheat your engine. You might have something called pre-ignition, or knocking and pinging as most people call it. And so in order to try to avoid that, or circumvent that, you get these colder plugs. However, you move on to like a colder environment, maybe say somewhere where it never gets above 90 degrees, 100 degrees. Well, then maybe you should use some of these colder plugs. Warmer plugs. And these warmer plugs will allow for the complete combustion of the fuel, fuel and air, but it'll get even hotter. So you basically burn up as much of it as possible, as efficiently as possible, and you still won't get that knocking and pinging because of its environment. This may not burn as good as these hotter plugs in cold environments, but in hot environments they don't need that extra assist, so it can sit further into this bore and be cooler. So this is for not overheating the engine in hot climates. This is for running as efficiently as possible and keeping the engine running efficiently in colder climates. So that's the biggest difference, and they change slightly by the number. So remember, on the Champions at least, the higher the number goes, the hotter the plug is, right? So just a quick FYI on this, and like I said, he's running this plug, so this sort of adds to the experience of this thing. And like I said, we're gonna drive this thing right now, right? We're gonna take it out for a cruise in a minute. Yeah. And we're going to put this back in there because that would be bad. But anyway, we're going to put this back in there. Just wanted to show you guys an example of what's going on with this. And we're going to see how this works. And yeah, we're going to get your opinion of the system. Yeah. And maybe some things that maybe should be improved, hopefully in a later version or something, and things you'd like about it.
I do want to mention one last thing. Remember we had a reader mention about these coil? Mm-hmm. Check it out. So I had this coil on. This is the coil.
So let's show them the coil we had.
Correct. And
this is the MSD. What is it?
It's the MSD part number 8207.
Okay.
So anyway.
So now real quick, what is the difference between this and what we put in the car? We'll show them what we put in the car in a minute. Yeah. So this would be considered a solid state coil, right?
Correct.
Okay, and this is what, like on the newer style vehicles?
Correct. Newer style.
So is it high capacity? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference between what's now in the car, which is, let me show you guys what I got back there. See if I can get back there. There it is. So that looks like an older style coil, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what is the difference? So educate us over here.
Well, it's got to be a certain amount of ohms. So that's compatible to that system.
Okay, so that coil over there, right, that's sitting over there, works with the distributor we put in there.
Correct.
Now, why?
Well, the guy who built it apparently built it for the specifications. This works, but long term, it may burn out the computer.
So that over there is more adjustability.
Correct.
To it, so it's not going to give feedback energy to the system. Okay, that makes sense. But that's one thing we did have to change. Other than that, has the system run how advertised?
Well, my experience with the car, with the distributor, with the short bound, we've actually installed it. So far, no detonation. We haven't made a lot of changes. Now, I'm to the next step. We're going to change to the hotter plugs. See if we can still get more performance without detonation, and then we'll just adjust accordingly.
Okay. All right, but other than that, how's it been feeling so far?
It feels great. The car really runs perfect. I mean, as best as you can. I think it's great. It's a great system.
Okay, so let's go driving and see how it's running now with these plugs, and then we'll go over more about what we think of the system.
All right.
All right, so let's, how about we take a drive? Alright guys, so I wanted to show you something before we get started on our drive. So I'm sure you guys remember this nice little display here. This is the display for the ignition system and how to adjust it and everything. You get your timing. See that little dancing ball? That right there is telling us where our timing's at the current idle. Okay, so here's a couple of things that we like and wish also that would be improved upon this system. Now, right now we're actually warming this vehicle up, so we just started it, you know, getting our vehicle up to temp. Okay, now we're gonna go back to the main menu. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about as far as our ability to send out. You'll see this tablet here, this table. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna try to zoom in on that. There it is. See how it says cold? Sorry about the glare there. Cold, hot, warm, cold, good. All right, so what we have here is different tables for the different settings we want, right? So when the car is cold, it needs a certain timing table that we have set up that runs better if the car is cold before it warms up. I don't know if that made sense, but yeah, that's what that's for. So we got a table we hit, so we hit that one on top, and that one runs the vehicle, or the timing of the vehicle, when it's cold. All right, so we have that initial table before it warms up, right? So with the engine cold, it has to run a certain table so that it runs as efficiently as possible. You don't get any pops, any dings, and the vehicle actually runs if you need it to when it's cold. But this will allow it to get warm. Then after it's warm, we can go to the warm table, as you see down there. There it is. Focus. Okay, so it'll go to the warm table. Now the warm table is when the vehicle is at operating temperature. It's normal you're running how you should, all that good stuff. And we set up that table so that it says peak efficiency at normal operating temperature. Hot is, say you're running a really hot day, or you've been driving the car forever, or say you went from a cold to a hot place, the temperature's starting to rise, you know, you're at around 190, 200 degrees. Then you go to hot. That retards the timing a little bit. You prevent knocking and pinging, all those things. So essentially we're doing what a computer would do, but this is more manual. That brings me to my second point. Though this is really cool to have, though this is really, really cool to have so that you can adjust it without having to go outside and mess with the distributor and just kind of like set the old school distributor to, you know, one thing kind of covers all. You can, you know, sort of tailor it here to the different environments. We sort of wish we could set this up to automatically do that as the temperature went through. Now, you would ask yourself, well, why doesn't it do that? Well, actually, the simple answer is it doesn't have a temp sensor. So this doesn't actually know what temperature the vehicle is at. All it knows is vacuum and RPMs. So you could say, well, maybe when the RPM increases this and the other, maybe, but the honest truth is temperature would be a better metric to measure upon when the vehicle is at normal operating temperature. That's just the truth. And this doesn't have that capacity yet. Will it in the future? Maybe. But that was never the point with this. The point with this was to manage timing as simply as possible without having to tear apart the distributor. Anyway, without getting too long-winded, do we wish it was more automatic? Sure, but that's really just maybe an improvement for the future. Anyway, so let's get to the drive of this thing. All right, guys, so right now we're driving it as a further example of what I was talking about earlier. The car is basically stone cold right now, and it's not recommended to drive cars when they're cold, but this is just to give you guys an example. The vehicle is set to the cold setting, and I mean, it's driving like you drive a normal car, you know, like if it was fuel injected. It doesn't knock, it doesn't ping. It's not the most efficient thing ever, but it's not stalling, it's not doing weird stuff, it's not falling on its face, and all because we were able to set it up here. So normally what you would do is compensate by injecting more fuel, but that's inefficient. We can just do it with timing. So, you know, a little bit of food for thought there. Alright guys, so we've been driving around a little bit, and I just wanted to show you what we're going to do next. So what we've been able to do with this system is, now that this thing is warm, right, so it's been driving, I showed you how well it drives when it's cold. So what we want to do is head back to our tables, right? So these set tables we had, and so now that it's warm, we just go to warm. We go down here to the little menu section, and we hit send. And now it's set to the warm timing setup, and so now it runs perfect. How's that responding?
Great.
Good? You like it?
Great. Perfect.
So there it is. So now it's set to where, you know, the vehicle should be at normal operating temperature. That's simple. Just those couple of clicks and you're done. You're ready to go. And I mean, look at that. It responds really good. Wow. Okay.
Ready?
Wow. Okay. This thing moves for a boat. Wow.
Let's see if it...
You want to see if it's repeatable?
Yeah.
All right.
Fuel.
Oh wow. So this thing's good. I mean, it runs good. All right.
You hear that?
Yeah. So,
what was the rev limit when we put on this?
we put it at 4,500 RPM.
That's why. I went to 5,000.
But I mean, that was safe. It was a safe thing.
Correct.
So that's good. So the safety feature works. So our rev limiter did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was cutting out ignition, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. See? No issues. We were safe. The engine didn't eat itself up. How does it feel?
Right. Yeah, the rev limiter works.
All right.
I think now we could probably use, believe it or not, a little bit more of a bigger shooter or longer shot on the nozzle. I think it wants more fuel, and we'll find out when we pull the plugs. We'll find out where it is. I think it could use some fuel. basically getting more power out of the engine.
All right, so what's your verdict on this thing?
I think it works. It's very tunable. You can tune it more easily. You know what this allows you to know exactly what you want. Is it more timing? Is it more fuel? In this case, I have a hunch I'm going to need more fuel now because the engine wants it. So yeah, it's a really neat system. A lot better than taking the distributor and fiddling with it.
Yep. All right. So what we're gonna do is continue doing this drive right now, making sure everything's worked out. But I think, honestly, guys, I think this is good. This thing's worked out really well. You heard this engine run. It runs really good. And yeah, so we're gonna continue here for a little bit, and we're gonna head back to the ranch, and we'll give you our thoughts once we head back. Okay, so we're back at the ranch here, the garage, and what we're gonna do now is, we said earlier we used a different style of plug, the hotter plugs that I showed you earlier, and we're gonna see, I mean, you saw how well this thing ran. We're gonna find out exactly how well this thing was burning up the fuel. So we're gonna pull a plug, and we're gonna see what that looks like. Okay, so here we go. This is the spark plug that came out of the car, and let's see. We ain't gonna touch this thing because it's super hot, but there, look at that. Man, that is clean.
Too clean.
That looks really clean. So right now, what we discover with this, something you should know, is that even though that looks pretty good, it's not good. It needs to be gray, not white like this.
Okay.
That means that it's what?
It's a little lean. So it could use some more fuel, which means more performance. The thing about the plug, in this case, we use the hottest plug that I could find compared to the coldest plug that I could find. And the thing about this plug is they tend to foul and low, and when it's cold, and when it's warm, it tends to prevent knocking and pinging. So there's a sweet spot in between. So I went to the other side of the spectrum to find out where we're at. Yeah, I'm more efficient here and so forth. Now I found out I could actually get more juice out of my engine by going to a hotter plug, which means now I can burn more fuel. Okay.
So we can run a little richer.
Correct. Yeah, that means more performance. But at the same time, if you use a car, moderately the way you should, you actually get more economy.
Okay. So now we know what that looks like. So it's burning good, yep. Right? We can get more fuel in there, so it'll burn even better.
Correct.
All right. So all right, Dad. How about we sit down and discuss how you feel about this system so far? All right. So progression. I apologize. Progression, ignition. Right. What is your verdict of having it for this time now?
Well, now that I've actually gave it a little more testing on it, I found out that actually something that I wouldn't have known before, because I had these plugs on to prevent the pre-ignition. It was working, so I'm thinking I got too much fuel, I'm fouling it. But guess what? With these plugs, guess what? Now I'm on the lean side now. So now I can actually further tune the car, my engine, and get more power, be more efficient. So my verdict on this system, if you really want to fine tune your car and get the best performance that you can possibly can. Sure, you can do it old school, but this is so simple to go back and forth and adjust the timing as you need it.
Okay, since you're used to the old school method,
correct.
What do you like about this system compared to how you used to do it?
Well, what I like about the system is that you don't have to go into the distributor. As you get older, it becomes more of a hassle, and it's more user friendly in the sense that you can actually on the fly right off the bat you can make changes. Say for example, somebody wants to go to the track. Give me an example of that. Somebody say, I think I have more in it, and then you can tune it according to the track. Temperatures, let's say it's a hot day, let's say it's a cold day, you can change it accordingly. You can make those changes on the fly. And otherwise it would take a while. I don't know if you've ever worked on a hot engine before, removing the distributor and making changes on that. It's not really fun. That's one of the downsides of that. But this actually makes a whole experience, somebody going into any kind of racing or even for a tuner, whatever, this will really make it really, really fun. The downside, of course, it's all perspective, the money, whatever.
So for you, what would be something you would change in this system that you didn't like so much?
What I didn't like, okay, it would be nice, for example, to have an automatic system. Say once you start the car, the first 10 minutes or the first 5 minutes, it'll be on a cold mode. And either by a timer or by temperature, it'll go automatically into normal operating temperature. And I know you were talking, oh, well, now we're talking fuel injection. But you know what? I think there's a sweet spot. On the flip side, I'm a tinker. To me, I love it because that's my nature. I love to tinker and I love to adjust and I love, because I'm a more of a mechanical side. But some people, you know, they'd rather not do that, get in there and start the car. I can see that, I can understand that. But I mean, you know, you can do it manually.
So you would prefer it if it was a little bit more automatic than it is?
For some
convenience.
For convenience.
Okay.
Say for example, you don't want to hassle with it. That's the only thing. But I like the feature that you can check your RPM on the actual tablet.
Also, what I wanted to ask you mostly, and you, my dad, is who is this for, you think? I mean, obviously for you, because you like to tinker, but who is this just for the tinker? Or, I mean, what do you think?
It could be for both, you know, a weekend warrior, guy who drag. I see this, the person who benefits the most out of this system is the weekend warrior who likes to go drag race. It's also an application for an old car that has an oil ignition system that, say for example, in my case, I love it because it's a custom build. So this is for the person who has building a custom build that is not gonna have to fiddle with the ignition system of guessing. They'll take the guesswork out of it because you'll do basically you'll tune it to what your needs are. That's what I see the most beneficial. And for a drag race. Now, on a practical term, if you're a guy who doesn't, you know, like to tinker with things, I mean, I can see this maybe not being for you. You want something more automatic. It could be good
Now,
for
to
you.
be clear, it will work for someone that isn't super technically
Correct.
inclined, but it's pretty much set it and forget it, and they're not gonna take
Correct.
full advantage of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway,
All right. Well,
overall, I mean,
closing thoughts. Good. Yes.
it's a great
Awesome.
product. I love it. I think you can, you know, you can waste money on some other things that you really don't need, but you want to save your engine. The ignition system, because if your car has pre-ignition and you can't get that problem out of the way, then you know, it's $500 all of a sudden is pretty cheap.
All right.
All right.
Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments down below what you thought of this video, and what do you think of the product that we reviewed today and the last video so far. I mean, we liked it. I think it's got a lot of potential. Obviously, there's more long-term that we're going to do with it, but yeah, let me know what you guys think, and see you guys next time. Alright.